artificial sweeteners, the connotation that goes along with them is negative. But what if I told you that sugar substitutes are healthier than natural sugars and need to replace those common sugars in the diets of Americans? Picture a sweetener without the negatives of natural sugars, like calories, and add on other significant health benefits, and you get a few sugar substitutes that will soon be the face of the sweetener issue. Certain sugar substitutes are healthier options than natural sugars and should be considered the future in food sweetening. Although growing in popularity, this new mode of sweetener is a bandwagon more people need to hop on. In my informative speech, I discussed the positives and negatives of both naturally occurring and artificial sweeteners, and I feel the need to briefly go over them again. But first, how are sweeteners categorized? There are many different ways to break down the different types of sweeteners, but generally, there's natural sugars like glucose, sucrose, and fructose sweeteners, and then sugar substitutes, which is essentially everything else. But somewhere in a gray area inside the realm of sugar substitutes are sugar alcohols and natural sugar substitutes. As you can see from my diagram, natural sugar substitutes would fall in somewhere around low calorie sweeteners and sugar alcohols. The article, Break Up the Sugar Once and for All, says sugar alcohols can be found naturally in some produce or created in a lab. Well, it describes non-nutritive sugar substitutes as essentially 0 calorie, but because they are derived from plants and other foods, they're not technically artificial. Some research even suggests that they might help people with diabetes manage the condition better than artificial sweeteners. Roger French got in on the hate too, saying, white sugar, or sucrose, is used extensively in processed foods and is a major cause for concern in the obesity epidemic, as well as with hypoglycemia, diabetes, dental caries, and other conditions. When looking at natural sweeteners, there are many negatives, including the issues dealing with the brain, heart, and vascular system, as well as the presence of calories, leading to weight gain. They can also affect the brain's cravings and lead to other digestive issues. In Jill Skylehouse's article, Sweet Things, she says, studies reveal the incredibly addictive nature of sugar, which releases chemicals that set off the brain's pleasure center, much like drugs. Plus, excess sugar negatively impacts weight, cholesterol, and blood pressure, and can lead to diabetes and cardiovascular disease. The positives to natural sweeteners aren't much more than giving your body energy. But with sugar substitutes, the options are endless, and many come with their own set of significant positives. But first, the negatives. There are some artificial sweeteners that are truly bad for your health, such as saccharin and aspartame, which can cause diabetes, heart issues, digestive issues, and sometimes your brain does not register that you are full, like it would with glucose or sucrose. But many of these negatives can be pointed down to a couple of older artificial sweeteners. The positives, on the other hand, remain constant across the board for just about every sugar substitute, and that they cause much less tooth decay, and that they pack much more sweetness and significantly less calories. There are only a few sweeteners that are able to walk the line of a very limited amount of negatives and a multitude of positives. But rest assured, there are some, and odds are, many of you in here have consumed some form of them in the last 24 hours. There are a select few sugar substitutes appearing more often in the last few years, and a couple sweeteners that have been around a long time that really seem to stand out when compared to natural sugars. One of these sweeteners is erythritol. In the article, erythritol sweeteners stand up from the pack with benefits to boot. It states that erythritol is found naturally in fruits like pears, melons, and grapes. This means that erythritol has been in human diets for centuries, but has only started picking up momentum recently. Along with erythritol, there are some other substitutes that compare pretty well versus standard sugar, such as monk fruit and xylitol. Youssef Salebi thought very highly of the former and said, research has shown this substance to be a good antioxidant and to have some anti-cancer effects. Roger French had many good things to say about the latter. It is tooth-friendly because it attracts and then starves harmful microorganisms, allowing the teeth to remineralize. Having a low GI, it is considered suitable for people with diabetes. In fact, sugar alcohols in general have low impacts on blood sugar levels. It prevents the weakening of bones and improves bone density. It increases the activity of the immune system and helps control Candida infections. It appears to be safe for pregnant and nursing women. Xylitol has no known toxicity, even when consumed at the high level of 400 grams daily for long periods. It can, however, cause a laxative effect in high doses. Xylitol is most likely the sweetener used in any gum you chew, such as Trident or Extra. Besides these two, French spoke very highly of honey and maple syrup, but also categorized them as high-calorie options. Lower-calorie options he liked included agave nectar and stevia, both of which come directly from plants, but also have unique aftertastes that might turn off some consumers. That being said, he believes all the options recently listed to be much healthier options than white sugar, brown sugar, or fructose, about which he mentioned. Fructose, because of the way it is metabolized, damages the liver in the same way as alcohol does. He did say all three of these options are okay in small amounts, with brown sugar being the healthiest. After listening to the cases for so many different sweeteners, it should be difficult to just pick out one, right? But that doesn't really seem to be the case. Throughout this research process, there was one sugar alcohol that kept popping up while showing a wide variety of benefits, erythritol. While still flying under the radar, erythritol has been picking up major steam in usage as a sweetener, and is even available in our own Dragon's Den through bubbler. You've probably even consumed it in the last few days, and it can be seen in many popular products such as bubbler drinks and protein and health bars. The positives to this sweetener were evident, as many articles rarely had something bad to say about it. The closest argument to a negative came from an experiment reported by Fred Browns, in which he concluded that the consumption of 20 and 35 grams of erythritol by healthy volunteers in a liquid is tolerated well, without any symptoms. At the highest level of erythritol intake, 50 grams, only a significant increase in borborygmy and nausea was observed, whereas xylitol intake at this level induced a significant increase in watery feces. This might be a good time to remind all of you that digestive issues are supposed to be one of the largest negatives to any sugar substitute. But when the positives are mentioned, standard sugar really doesn't compare. Erythritol keeps up the low-calorie trend seen in many artificial sweeteners. As the article, erythritol sweeteners stand up from the pack, with benefits to boot, says, it is virtually calorie-free. Erythritol is 0.2 calories per gram. Sugar provides 4 calories per gram. Sorbitol 2.6 and xylitol 2.4. The digestive effect mentioned earlier is reiterated by Roger French as he says, erythritol is generally free of side effects unless consumed in extremely large quantities that the body cannot absorb. A laxative effect may result, but is unlikely to cause wind or bloating. Looking at the research behind the argument for some of these new sugar substitutes versus everyday sugars, it is easy to see that there are many more healthy options besides the ones that seem to be put in every processed product, while artificial sweeteners get a bad reputation. But one must remember that these don't give you the energy boost that natural sugars do in added form, of which no more than 36 grams are recommended in a day. That being said, I believe that sugar substitutes are the future of sweeteners and should be regarded as such. With many health benefits over sugar and only some of the negatives, these new options are growing in popularity, and rightfully so. All in all, one of the biggest takeaways from my speech should be that all sweeteners should be consumed in moderation, and the best diet would include a mix of sugar substitutes and a little natural sweetener. But there are loads of healthy, low-calorie options when looking at the best sweetener for diets, and erythritol should be near the top of many of those lists, along with a select few other sweeteners. Knowing what you now know, next time you pick up a snack, I challenge you to check the label and make the healthiest choice for yourself. Thank you for listening to my speech.